Hello everybody and welcome back to Time of the Whovians United. Today we will be reviewing Season 3 of Classic Doctor Who. If you've not seen our reviews of Season 1 or 2, just go and find them in the playlist right now and watch them before this one. Well anyway, let's get into it.
Hi, I'm Doinkadect's Clumberbatch, that's totally my real name. You can follow me on Twitter or subscribe to my YouTube channel by that name, and please do, I really need the ego boost. I mainly do Doctor Who, but if something else came along that took over my life as much as Who has, I would probably do that as well. By this point in this run, William Hartnell's Doctor had started to move away from the paternal figure that he was in seasons 1 and 2, but still keeping some of the frippery old grandfather motif that his incarnation is so well known for. I must mention that the scene at the end of the massacre where he ponders over how all of his companions have now left him, thinking whether he should carry on, particularly after witnessing the events of the Daleks' master plan and the massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve. He's questioning his place in all of this, and that's the scene that I must really commend, well, both Hartnell and the writers for.
So in terms of the Doctor, I agree with Doinkadect. I do think that he was a bit more cheerful, a bit more chirpy throughout the season. Definitely a more mischievous than ever. You know, that laugh, that laugh, uses it all the time. You can see, compared to season 1 or 2, he's a lot more mischievous, he's a more upbeat, he's not really grumpy at all.
When it comes to companions for this series, there's Vicky, who's only in 2 stories at the beginning of the season, and Polly and Ben, who are only in half a serial at the end, so I won't dwell on them. Dodo's introduced in the latter half of the season and left not long after in an infamously unceremonial way. This is because she's regarded as one of the most forgettable companions of the show, and not just because of her missing episodes. There just simply isn't that much to her, and it's no wonder that Jackie Lane is the only living companion actor not to have done Big Finish. This season really belongs to Stephen though, played by the wonderful Peter Purves, even though that Peter felt that he wasn't given much character development, with his lines in Galaxy 4 just being recycled from ones meant for Ian and Barbara. Stephen really does stand out as being a memorable presence that wouldn't be afraid to question or go against the Doctor. So I must say that Stephen is my top companion for this season. And I just remembered that Katerina also exists, which kind of speaks for her presence in the show and just how short her run was. And then there's also Sarah Kingdom, who's, well, she's only in 1 serial, The Daleks' Master Plan, but she is also quite a memorable character.
For the companions, I agree again with Doinkadect. My favourite companion from Season 3 is definitely Stephen. He's definitely grown into a good companion. He had promise at the end of Season 2, and he can stand on his own. He works well with the Doctor and the other companions, you know, quite independent. There are times where he's a little bit questionable, you know, is he really being stupid, or has he actually got a plan coming up, like for example the gunfighters? Is he really believing that story, or is he just playing to them, to them on? I don't know. But Stephen's definitely the best. Vicky, not much to say because she left in story number 3. Just left randomly. You know, Dodo's okay. Dodo's okay. She's a little bit annoying, but she's fine. Ben and Polly, great. You know, end of season 3, I thought they were good. They've got a really good promise. I really do think they're going to be really good companions. Katerina and Sarah Kingdom, not much to say because, again, they either left or died. You know, Sarah Kingdom was great. Katerina was okay, but, you know, didn't stay very, very long. But for me, with the companions this season, departures are pretty poor because Vicky just ups and leaves with this random guy. I can't remember who he was. You know, Dodo just leaves a note and saying, "I'm off, bye." I don't know if that's anything to do with production, I can't remember, but the departures compared to previously, like, you know, Ian and Barbara, not as good at all.
The villains of this season are a mixed bunch. There's the all-female Dravens, the cunning and mysterious celestial toymaker, the one-eyed monoids, the supercomputer Wotan, and then there's whoever the villains are in the Mythmakers, Massacre, Savages and Gunfighters. I genuinely can't remember who the villains are in those ones, but only one of them doesn't have the excuse of having all of their episodes missing. But the standout villains of this season must be the Daleks in the epic Daleks Master Plan, with Kevin Stoney's Mavic Chen leading them in one of the greatest villain performances of classic Who, with his calm, thinking nature but still clearly angry over the Doctor and Co.'s interference. So I must give it to him for the villain of the season.
With the villains, I mostly agree with Doinkadect, but not quite completely. So for me, my favourite villain is Wotan. Wotan, a computer that can hypnotise people and do their bidding. Awesome. Creepy. Him just saying, get Doctor Who. That's just creepy. Awesome. War Machines themselves, they're a bit clunky and a bit big, but, they fit the purpose and they did a decent job. The Daleks, of course, they are at the most powerful as I've ever been. Literally, they are so devious and menacing and destructive. Definitely the best ever. You got honourable mentions, so the Celestial Toymaker, really cunning and devious and menacing. Great villain. The Monoids, very surprising, going from like slaves to the actual owners. Great turnaround and great portrayal there. So overall, villains were quite mixed. There were some good ones, and there's some like non-existent ones, like the gunfighters. There was okay, but not really villains at all. So yeah, very mixed. So for the story rankings, for me it goes this way. In 10th place, 3 out of 10 is the Mythmakers. Quite boring, unfortunately. Not being fully there doesn't really help. The audio doesn't help. It needs to be visual.
At the bottom of the list comes the Gunfighters. Widely regarded as one of Doctor Who's worst stories of all time, this cowboy musical is just a pain to watch and listen to. And it's a shame that they preserved the whole of this serial and not anything from most of the other entries on this list.
In 9th place is the Gunfighters, 5 out of 10. The song's okay, it's a bit, drags a bit. Nothing too interesting, really.
Galaxy 4's an interesting one. It has some ideas going for it, but the long sequences where nothing seems to be happening don't do it any favours. Though the 2011 recovery of episode 3 did a lot of good, but it just unfortunately falls so low on this list.
Number 8 is Galaxy 4, also 5 out of 10. Again, nothing spectacular. The pacing's fine for 4 parts, but nothing too amazing about it.
The arc has a good concept going for it, that the TARDIS team solve an issue and come back years later to see that things are now worse. This is a good idea executed poorly, with poor set and costume design and an iconic but impractical design for the Monoids. And when you think of it as slaves turning on their former masters, it only starts to grow more issues.
7 is The Massacre, 6 out of 10. Again, it kind of suffers from just being audio based. It's alright, but I would prefer it if it was animated or visual, so I get to see the story a bit better.
The downfall of the Celestial Toymaker is that it's a highly visual story that's missing 3/4 of it, and it relies heavily on public domain children's games, except for that one copyright infringement, and so it hasn't really aged well. Also, it has the N-word in it. The Celestial Toymaker himself is an intriguing character, and it would be nice to see him return again.
Same again, The Savages, 7 out of 10, on audio carries a bit better for me, but not quite reaching its potential because it's not visualised.
The next 3 are the hardest to rank, really. The Mythmakers is a fun comedy, The Savages is certainly an interesting story, and The Massacre is a bleak historical. I'd rank these stories in that order, but the lack of visuals and relatively poor audio makes these ones quite hard to judge. The Massacre only has a handful of set and publicity photos existing, But this lack of material makes this story just so intriguing to me, and I just love to see something from it. So yeah, Mythmakers, Savages, Massacre.
And at 5th place is the Celestial Toymaker. You know, the villain himself is really, really good, but the actual story is a little bit long, and it's a bit tedious, and it's a bit, childish. It's alright, it's a bit silly, but, nothing super, amazing about it. In 4th place is the Dalek Master Plan. Really, really awesome stuff. Just the 12 parts is a bit long, that's the only issue with it, Make it a little bit shorter, because there are parts of it that are, a bit irrelevant that you didn't really need in there, that could have been taken away, and that don't really add much to the story.
The War Machines is certainly a product of its time, being about the rise of what would become the basis of the internet, and the War Machines themselves being quite unthreatening. But at least this story completely survives, and it has a special significance to me, as it was the first ever classic Who that I watched. Mainly because I was in HMV and thought, hey, this is from 1966, it must be the first ever story. Oh, how I was wrong.
3, The Ark, for me, really underrated. 8.5 out of 10, really underrated. The monoids are great. 4 parts, paced really well told, really well visualised. Good stuff.
Next is Mission to the Unknown, but it is essentially just a prequel to the epic #1 spot, The Daleks' Master Plan. This 12-part epic does meander towards the latter half, but this chilling story that accounted for 2 out of 3 companion deaths of the classic era is a true behemoth. And whilst it is a struggle to get through, being 5 hours long and with only 3 episodes surviving, the work from the Loose Cannon team to bring this one alive just must be commended, as the atmosphere and tension are still intact.
Number 2, the Mission to the Unknown, 1-part story, good, really, really good, even with the animation itself, really good, really portrayed the Daleks really well, quite scary, quite menacing, and it really sets up the Dalek Master Plan really, really well. But in at number 1, of course, it's got to be the War Machines, 10 out of 10. Awesome story, Wotan is amazing, really, really good villain. Ben and Polly do really well, good introduction for them. So, for me, the best one out of Series 3. And there you have it, that was our review of Season 3 of Classic Doctor Who. I'd like to say a massive thank you to Doinkadect Clamberbatch for being a great guest. If you've not seen his channel, go and check him out, go and subscribe and watch his videos. Really great guy, really great channel, something completely different. I like the Classic Who element to his channel. Go and do it right now.
Thanks for having me, and again, please subscribe to me and follow me on Twitter. My ego needs it.
If you like this video, go ahead and give it a nice big like. Comment your thoughts. What do you think about Series 3? How do you rank the stories? What do you think overall? Do you agree or disagree with us? Go and have a great friendly discussion as always. But most importantly, subscribe. If you like what you see here, subscribe right now. We're nearly at 1,000 subscribers. 1K. 1K is an amazing milestone, and you at home could help us reach it. So if you like what you see, just subscribe right now and help us on that journey. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I shall see you next time. See ya!